My wife spent 23 years of her life restoring a single car. When I walked into the empty garage that Monday morning, my daughter looked at me and said, "I sold it, Dad. My husband needs the money for our Dubai trip." I collapsed right there when I realized my own daughter had betrayed me, until the next morning when the buyer called. "Sir, you need to come to my shop immediately. Your wife left something secret hidden inside the car. Hello and welcome." If you're enjoying this, please like, subscribe, and comment where you're from. Note this story includes creative elements for entertainment and learning, but the message is real. Any resemblance to actual names or settings is coincidental. I stood frozen in the doorway, bare feet on cold concrete. The coffee mug in my hand had gone lukewarm. The garage door was rolled all the way up, and the space where Catherine's 1968 Dodge Charger should have been was just empty. It was Monday morning, 8 months after I'd buried my wife. 8 months of silence, of coffee for one, of walking past this closed garage door every day. But this morning, something pulled me to the kitchen window instinct from 28 years as a Sacramento firefighter. The kind that tells you when something's wrong. The garage door had been open, not cracked, fully open. Catherine would never have left it like that. In 38 years of marriage, my wife was meticulous about 3 things: her students' lesson plans, her car projects, and securing our home. She'd been a high school history teacher, but in this garage she'd been something else, an artist with grease under her fingernails and a socket wrench in her hand. I stepped fully inside. Morning light slanted through the open door, illuminating the oil stain where the Charger used to sit. Catherine used to joke it looked like Italy. The walls still held her tools perfectly organized on shadow boards she'd drawn in black marker. "So you'll know where everything goes when you help me," she'd said. Wrenches, sockets, the impact gun from 3 Christmases ago. The creeper she'd roll under the car on, emerging with grease on her cheek, and that smile that made me fall in love with her all over again. All still there. All except the car. The smell hit me hard. Motor oil and old leather. Orange-scented hand cleaner from the pump bottle by the sink. WD-40. It was Catherine's smell, and it squeezed my chest like a vice. I used the breathing technique from the Fire Academy, 4 counts in, hold 4 out. It helped a little. On her workbench sat her restoration journal open like she'd just set it down. My hand trembled as I picked it up. The last entry was dated 2 months before she died. April 3rd. Adjusted the carburetor. She's running smoother. Can't wait to teach Scott how to drive a manual properly. The look on his face when we take her up to Tahoe this summer. It stopped mid-sentence. 2 weeks later, she collapsed in her classroom. 43 minutes from the aneurysm to the moment I held her hand in the ICU while the machines beeped their final rhythm. I'd watched the Charger's progression over 23 years, from rusted hulk in 1995 to museum-quality beauty by 2018. By 5 blue paint like liquid sky, chrome that reflected your face back, that 440 Magnum rumbling like distant thunder when she fired it up. But I hadn't understood what it meant to her. Not until now, standing in this hollow space. "Why a Charger?" I'd asked once. "My dad had one," she'd said, not looking up. "B5 blue, just like this. Sunday morning rides, just us 2. He sold it to pay for my college." She'd wiped her hands on a red shop rag. I promised myself I'd have one again someday. Her father died before she could show him the finished restoration. I closed the journal carefully. The garage felt too small, too empty, too full of ghosts. Where was the car? Catherine had been dead for 8 months. The Charger had sat here untouched, gathering dust under its cover. I'd come out here sometimes late at night, when I couldn't sleep, sitting in the driver's seat, breathing in old leather and trying to feel close to her. But I hadn't been out here in, how long? A week, 2 weeks. My daughter Lauren had a key. She'd been staying here off and on, trying to help her old man adjust. She'd been here yesterday. I'd seen her BMW when I got back from my morning walk with Frank Morrison, my fishing buddy, who'd been checking on me with concerning regularity. Lauren wouldn't have moved the car without telling me. Would she? I looked around one more time as if the charger might materialize. But there was nothing, just tools and memories and the ghost of orange cleaner. I walked back to the house journal, clutched like a lifeline. The morning sun painted Sacramento sky in pale blue and gold. The neighborhood was waking a dog barking a car, starting sprinklers hissing across the street. Normal sounds. Normal Monday in Carmichael. Except my wife's car was gone. I made it back to the kitchen and set the journal on the counter next to my cold coffee. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but something deeper. The careful equilibrium I'd maintained since Catherine's death. The routines, the small comforts, the gradual adjustment to being alone had just been knocked sideways. I needed to call Lauren. I needed answers. For 8 months, I'd existed in limbo. Not quite grieving, not quite living. Going through motions, walking with Frank, having dinner with Lauren and her husband Ethan, sitting here every morning drinking coffee, pretending I had somewhere to be. But now something had changed. The garage was empty. The charger was gone. And in the back of my mind, in that place where a firefighter learns to recognize danger before it shows itself, a small alarm was beginning to sound. I didn't know what it meant yet, but I knew with the certainty of instinct and experience that I was about to find out. I turned back toward the kitchen with the journal in my hand, feeling a loss deeper than the day of her funeral. The next morning, an unfamiliar number called. The black BMW pulled into my driveway just after 5 o'clock. I'd spent the day pacing Catherine's journal on the kitchen table. I'd called Lauren 3 times. No answer. I recognized the BMW immediately, a leased 3 Series with dealer plates still visible. The kind of car you drove when you wanted people to think you had money. Small detail, but it told me everything. Lauren emerged from the driver's seat first, pausing with her hand on the door. Even from the kitchen window, I could see her avoiding looking at the open garage, at the empty space. Ethan Shepard came around the car with casual confidence. He placed his hand on Lauren's shoulder, not comforting, but possessive. The gesture made something cold settle in my gut. I met them at the front door. Dad. Lauren's voice was small. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Inside. They followed me to the kitchen. Ethan glanced around like he was calculating property values. Lauren sat at the table, Catherine's chair, while Ethan leaned against the counter like he belonged here. Where's the car? I kept my voice level. Firefighter calm. Lauren's hands twisted in her lap. Dad, I can explain. Where is the car? We needed the money for Dubai. Ethan's been planning this trip, and the car was just sitting there. It's just Metal Scott. Ethan's voice cut across the room. He said my name like we were old friends. Catherine's gone. What's the point of keeping a car locked up when it could actually be useful? The way he said her name, Catherine, with that casual dismissiveness. My hands curled into fists. How much? Lauren glanced at Ethan. He gave a slight nod. 25,500, she said quietly. 23 years of Catherine's weekends. 23 years of careful restoration. Sold for the price of a used sedan. The buyer said it was fair, Ethan added. It's a 60-year-old car, Scott. Parts are probably rotted. Engine probably needs work. I looked at him, really looked. Mid-30s expensive haircut designer jeans that leased BMW outside. And my daughter was nodding along like this made sense. Mom would have wanted me to be happy, Lauren said, tears in her eyes now. She always said family was more important than things. She did say that. I kept my voice quiet. She also said that car represented every Sunday morning she spent with her father. The one thing she had left of him after he died. Lauren flinched. But you wouldn't remember. You stopped coming to the garage when you were 16, stopped listening to her stories. We can pay you back, Ethan said smoothly. Once we get back from Dubai, I've got investments coming through, big opportunities in the Emirates. You sold my wife's car while I was at the grocery store. The words hung in the air. Now, you knew I went to Save Mart every Monday at 3. You waited until I left. You took the keys from the hook by the door and you sold her car. Dad, please, who'd you sell it to? Silence. Who did you sell it to? Some collector, Ethan said with a shrug. Guy named Mitchell, Gary Mitchell. He owns a restoration shop on Auburn Boulevard. Something flickered in my memory. Mitchell, Auburn Boulevard. Why did that sound familiar? He paid cash. Certified check, Lauren said quickly. It's all legal, Dad. Legal. The word was supposed to be reassuring. Do you even know how to drive a stick shift? Ethan asked challenge in his voice. Catherine told Lauren you'd never learned, that she was going to teach you. So what were you going to do? Let it sit there forever, some shrine. I'd seen this before. 28 years of walking into burning buildings teaches you to read people. Ethan wanted me to react, wanted me to lose my temper to give him an excuse to paint me as the unreasonable old man. So I didn't give him what he wanted. I walked to the counter and picked up Catherine's journal, opened it to that last entry, set it in front of Lauren. Read it. She read. I watched her eyes move across the page, watched them stop at that unfinished sentence. Can't wait to teach Scott how to drive a manual properly. The look on his face when we take her up to Tahoe this summer. A tear hit the page, smudging ink that was already 20 months old. We should go, Ethan said, straightening. His hand found Lauren's shoulder again, steering, controlling. Scott needs time to process. We'll talk when everyone's calmer. Lauren stood eyes still on the journal. Dad, Just go. I watched from the kitchen window as Ethan opened the passenger door for her, as that leased BMW backed out of the driveway where Catherine's Charger used to park. I stood alone in the empty garage. The tools hung on their shadow boards. The oil stain remained on concrete. The smell of orange hand cleaner lingered. Catherine's journal was still in my hand. I opened it again, looking at that last entry, and noticed something I'd missed. At the bottom of the page, in smaller letters. Note to self-call Gary Mitchell about B5 paint touch-up. He'll know the right formula. Gary Mitchell, Auburn Boulevard, the man who'd bought the car. I went back inside and sat at the kitchen table as evening shadows filled the house. Lauren's chair, Catherine's chair, sat empty across from me. The journal lay open between us like a bridge to someone who was gone. $25,500. For a car Catherine had poured her heart into. For a car that was supposed to take us to Tahoe that summer. Windows down her, teaching me to feel the clutch engagement point, laughing when I ground the gears. For a car that was now owned by a man whose name Catherine had written in her journal 2 months before she died. I closed my eyes and used the breathing technique. 4 counts in. Hold. 4 counts out. When I opened them, nothing had changed. The garage was still empty. Lauren was still gone. Catherine was still dead. But that name, Gary Mitchell, sat in my mind, like a small flame in the darkness. The phone rang the next morning at 6:45. A Sacramento number I didn't recognize. I answered on the second ring. Mr. Plenty. The voice was rough with age and emotion. My name is Gary Mitchell. I think we need to talk about your wife's car, Mr. Lawson. The voice was rough with age and emotion. "My name is Gary Mitchell. I'm holding your wife's car." I sat up straighter at the kitchen table. "You bought it." "I bought it to protect it. Your daughter didn't know what she was selling." A pause, heavy with meaning. "I was at Catherine's funeral, Mr. Lawson, back row. I didn't have the courage to come up to you after." "How do you tell a man you barely know that his wife saved your life 25 years ago?" The kitchen tilted slightly. "What are you talking about?" "There are things Catherine wanted you to know. Things she left for you. In the car." His voice cracked. "Please, can you come to my shop? This isn't something I can explain over the phone." I looked at the clock. 6:47 a.m. "Where are you?" "Mitchell Auto Restoration, 3847 Auburn Boulevard. Blue building with the vintage Gulf sign out front." "I'll be there in 30 minutes. I took the F-150 Catherine's truck, really, though she'd always insisted it was mine. She'd driven it more than I had hauling parts and tools for the Charger. The bench seat still smelled faintly of her coconut shampoo. The morning commute was building as I drove through Sacramento. I passed Sutter Memorial Hospital, where Catherine had taught health education for 15 years before moving to the high school. The building looked the same as always, brick and glass parking lot already filling with the morning shift. Students still sent cards, sometimes telling me how Mrs. Lawson had made anatomy interesting, how she'd encouraged them to pursue nursing. Auburn Boulevard cut through the older industrial section of Sacramento. Auto repair shops lined both sides of the street, interspersed with parts, warehouses, and body shops. The kind of neighborhood where mechanics still had grease permanently embedded under their fingernails and could diagnose engine problems by sound alone. Mitchell Auto Restoration sat between a tire shop and a welding supply company. The building was blue, faded by years of Sacramento sun, with a restored 1960s Gulf oil sign mounted above the 3 bay doors. All the bays were closed. The parking lot held maybe a dozen cars in various states of restoration. Classic Mustangs, a Camaro, what looked like a '57 Chevy with primer gray panels, and in the far corner under a carport covered with a gray tarp, a shape I would have recognized anywhere. I parked the F-150 and sat for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. Through the office window, I could see a man standing, watching, waiting. Even from here, I could see the tension in his shoulders. The morning air was cool when I stepped out. Somewhere in one of the bays, an air compressor kicked on with a mechanical wheeze. The smell of paint thinner and metal dust hung in the air, a garage smell, but different from Catherine's. More industrial, more business than passion. The office door opened before I reached it. Gary Mitchell was shorter than I'd expected, maybe 5'8", wiry build, wearing navy coveralls with his name stitched over the pocket in white thread. 58 years old according to the outline, but he looked older. Silver hair, weathered face, hands scarred from decades of working with metal and machinery. His eyes were red-rimmed like he hadn't slept. "Mr. Lawson." He extended his hand. It trembled slightly. "Thank you for coming." His grip was firm despite the tremor, a working man's handshake. "Gary." I nodded toward the covered shape in the corner. "That's Catherine's car." "It is." He didn't let go of my hand immediately, and I need you to understand something before we go any further. I didn't buy this car as a business transaction. I bought it to protect it. To protect what Catherine left inside it. He released my hand and gestured toward the office. "Please, let me start at the beginning." The office was small, a metal desk buried under invoices and repair manuals, a dented filing cabinet, a coffee maker that looked older than my marriage. Photos covered every inch of wall space, classic cars, restoration projects, a younger Gary shaking hands with satisfied customers. And there in the corner, a photo I hadn't expected to see. Catherine, maybe 15 years younger, standing next to Gary in front of this same building. She was smiling that real smile, the one that reached her eyes, holding a set of keys. Gary's arm was around her shoulders and both of them looked impossibly happy. I stared at the photo, unable to speak. November 1999, Gary said quietly, following my gaze. The day I got the keys to this place. The day I stopped being a mechanic working out of my garage and became a business owner. He moved toward the old coffee maker. Coffee. No, just tell me what this is about. He nodded and leaned against the desk, his hands gripping the edge like he needed the support. 25 years ago, I was broke, Mr. Lawson. Divorced, living in a studio apartment over on Stockton Boulevard, and working 3 jobs, dealership mechanic by day, Jiffy Lube, on weekends freelance restoration work whenever I could find it. I was trying to save enough to open my own restoration shop. It was my dream. The only thing keeping me going through the worst time of my life. He picked up a framed document from the desk, a bank form yellowed with age and protected behind glass. I had the skills, the experience, the reputation. What I didn't have was capital or credit. Every bank in Sacramento turned me down. My divorce had destroyed my credit score. I had no collateral. Too risky, they said. Too specialized. The classic car restoration market was uncertain. He set the document down carefully, like it was made of something more fragile than paper. I was about to give up. Take a job at a dealership in Roseville. Let the dream die. Catherine. I said quietly, understanding beginning to dawn. I met her at a cars and coffee event at William Land Park, spring of '99. She was there with the Charger still in rough shape, then barely running, but you could see the potential. We got to talking about restoration techniques, parts sourcing, paint matching. She told me she was a teacher. I told her about my dream of opening a restoration shop. Gary's voice thickened with emotion. 2 weeks later, she showed up at my apartment with loan papers from First National Bank. She'd co-signed $50,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. 50,000. In 1999, that was nearly a year of Catherine's teaching salary. The bank manager told me later that Catherine had gone in 3 separate times. Gary continued, arguing my case, bringing references she'd collected from my previous customers, people I didn't even know she'd contacted. She spent hours convincing them I was a good risk, that I'd succeed if someone just gave me a chance. I remembered that time, 1999. Lauren had been just a little girl. Catherine had been teaching full-time at the high school and restoring the Charger on weekends. We'd been saving for Lauren's college fund, watching every dollar. I'd known Catherine had helped someone she'd mentioned it once, casually downplaying it. Just co-signed a small business loan for a friend, she'd said when I'd asked about the bank statements. I'd never known the amount, never known the full story. She made me promise not to tell you, Gary said, reading my thoughts. Said you'd worry about the risk, that you'd insist she couldn't afford it. He smiled sadly. But there was no risk, Mr. Lawson. Not with me. I paid back every penny of that loan within 7 years, ahead of schedule. And this shop, everything I built, everything I became exists because your wife believed in a broke mechanic with a dream and grease under his fingernails. The air compressor kicked off suddenly. In the silence that followed, I could hear my own heartbeat loud in my ears. She saved your life, I said. And it wasn't a question. She saved my life. Gary agreed, his voice barely above a whisper. And last year, before she died, she made sure the Charger would save yours too. I stared at Gary, trying to process his words. The morning sun slanted through the office windows, illuminating dust motes in the air. What do you mean, save me? I managed. Gary straightened from the desk. When your daughter brought the car yesterday, I recognized it immediately. Catherine's Charger. I'd know that B5 Blue anywhere I mixed the paint formula for her final coat in 2017. His jaw tightened. Lauren told me she needed to sell it quickly, that you were struggling. That $25,500 was a fair price. The number hung between us. I didn't correct her, because Catherine had made me promise. 8 months ago, 1 week before she died, she came here and made me swear that if anyone tried to sell the Charger, I would buy it, no matter the price, and I would make sure you came here. My mouth went dry. What is it actually worth? Gary walked to the window. That car is museum quality, numbers matching 440 Magnum, original broadcast sheet, documented history back to 1968, 23 years of meticulous restoration. He turned to face me. Conservative estimate $306,000. The floor dropped out from under me. I grabbed the desk edge. $306,000. Lauren sold it for $25,500. $280,000 in difference. 23 years of Catherine's weekends. 23 years of her dreams. Sold for less than 10% of its value while I bought groceries. She didn't know, I heard myself say. Lauren didn't know. No, but someone else did. Gary's voice hardened. The man with her, your son-in-law. He knew. I could see it when I asked about the car's history. Nervous, rushed, wanted cash or certified check. Today. Had to be today. Jane. Come on, Gary said, moving to the door. Let me show you what Catherine left. We crossed the lot to the covered car. Gary stopped beside it, hand resting on the tarp. Catherine came here 8 months ago, right before she died. She spent 3 hours with me, told me things she'd discovered, things about your son-in-law. He pulled back the tarp slowly. Things she needed you to know, but she couldn't tell you directly. So she asked me to hide it, to protect it. The B5 blue paint gleamed under morning sun. Perfect. Flawless. Chrome bumpers reflected my face. Through the window, immaculate black leather interior. Catherine's masterpiece, her 20-year love letter, sold for pocket change. Gary opened the driver's door. The smell of leather and old car washed over me. For a moment, I was back in our garage watching Catherine slide into this seat. Her satisfied smile. Behind the radio, Gary said, reaching across. His hands pressed something, a click. The radio panel swung open on hidden hinges. Behind it, a compartment, custom-built, 8 inches deep. Inside, a manila folder thick with papers, a sealed envelope with my name in Catherine's handwriting, a small wooden box with a brass lock. Gary stepped back. She made me install this 2 years ago. For important documents, she said. But 8 months ago, she brought these things. Made me promise that if anything happened, if anyone sold this car, I would buy it and make sure you came here. I stared at the compartment. My hands shook. I'll give you privacy, Gary said quietly. Office has coffee. I'll be in Bay 2. He walked away. A bay door clanged open. Air compressor hissed. I was alone. I sat on the driver's seat edge, feet still outside. The leather cool under my palms. I reached into the compartment with trembling hands. The envelope first. Heavy, thick paper. My name's Scott, in Catherine's handwriting. Sealed with red wax. Old-fashioned, deliberate. I broke the seal and pulled out 3 folded sheets. A letter. Dated April 5th. 2 months before she died. My dearest Scott, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And someone has tried to sell the Charger. Gary will have brought you here as I asked. I'm so sorry, my love. Sorry I had to hide this. Sorry I couldn't tell you directly. But I needed you safe. I needed you to have options, to have proof. The manila folder contains everything. 18 months of investigation. Phone records, financial documents, photographs, police reports from other states. Everything you need to understand what Ethan Shepard really is. His real name is Ryan Wells. I stopped reading. My hands shook so badly the words blurred. Ryan Wells. Ethan's real name was Ryan Wells. I looked across the lot to Bay 2. Power tools hummed. Normal sounds. Normal Tuesday morning, except nothing was normal. Catherine had known. For 18 months, she'd known something about Ethan. Something bad enough to investigate in secret. Something important enough to hide evidence in her car. I folded the letter carefully, picked up the manila folder, 2 inches thick, the tab labeled in Catherine's handwriting, Ryan Wells/Ethan Shepard. Evidence. My wife had built a case against our son-in-law in secret. And then she died. I sat in the driver's seat of her Charger holding the folder, and for the first time since her funeral, I let myself truly cry. Not quiet tears, not controlled grief, but gut-wrenching sobs from somewhere deep and broken. Gary must have heard, but he didn't interrupt. Just kept working, giving me privacy to fall apart. When I could breathe again, I wiped my face and looked down at the folder in my lap. Catherine's handwriting on the tab, her evidence, her 18 months of work, her final gift to protect me. With shaking hands, I opened it. I sat in the driver's seat of Catherine's Charger and read her letter. My dearest Scott, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. Someone has tried to sell the Charger. Gary brought you here as I asked. I'm so sorry I had to hide this. But I needed you safe. I needed you to have proof. His real name is Ryan Wells. The words hit like a punch. Ryan Wells. Our son-in-law had been using a fake name for 2 years. Ryan Wells is a professional predator, Scott. He targets elderly people through their adult children. His pattern: marry, quickly isolate the spouse, build a narrative of the parent's declining mental capacity, then file for conservatorship. Once he has legal control, he liquidates everything and disappears. I became suspicious 14 months ago. Lauren pulling away. Canceled dinners, financial changes, credit cards carrying balances, classic isolation tactics. So I hired a private investigator, Vincent Clark, former Sacramento PD. He found Ryan's real identity in 3 weeks. Real name: Ryan Patrick Wells, born Reno, 1992. 4 known aliases: Ethan Shepard, Marcus Brennan, Nathan Cross, David Cole. Vincent traced his pattern across Arizona, Florida, Texas, California. At least 5 victims, all elderly, all with adult children he married, all lost significant assets. The worst case: Gerald Martinez in Tucson. His father lost $476,000 before Gerald discovered the truth. Ryan, using the name Marcus Brennan, had already fled. $476,000. I thought about our house, our savings, everything Catherine and I had built over 38 years. I confronted him once, Scott, 6 months ago. Told him I knew who he was, that I had evidence. He smiled, said, "You have no proof Lauren would believe. If you try to expose me, I'll convince her you're losing your mind, that you need help." Then he showed me a notebook. Lauren's notebook. Pages of observations about you. Dad forgot his keys. Dad seems confused. All coached. All fabricated. Building a case that you're experiencing cognitive decline. That's when I understood. He wasn't just targeting our assets. He was building a conservatorship case, legal control over you, over everything, using our daughter to do it. The letter blurred. I wiped my eyes and kept reading. I couldn't tell you directly. If Ryan suspected you knew he'd file immediately while I was alive to testify to your decline. I needed more evidence. Proof even Lauren couldn't deny. Vincent found 2 more victims. Raymond Nelson in Jacksonville lost $332,000. Stanley Wright in Phoenix, Ryan fled before police could arrest him. I have it all in the folder. Everything you need. But there's more. The wooden box contains a key. Safe Deposit Box 582 at Wells Fargo on J Street. Inside bonds and stock certificates I've been quietly purchasing for 3 years. Current value $581,000. $581,000. Catherine had hidden over $500,000 for 3 years, while Ryan had been worming into our family. I started buying them in 2021, our retirement nest egg, our Tahoe fund. But when I discovered Ryan's plan, I realized this money could be your safety net. Your way to fight back if he files for conservatorship. The bonds are in your name only. Ryan can't touch them. Vincent Clark's contact information is in the folder. He's agreed to help. There are also numbers for Gerald Martinez and Raymond Nelson. They've agreed to testify. I love you, Scott. I'm still protecting you even now. Don't let him win. Don't let him take what we built. And please help Lauren see the truth. She's a victim too. The Charger is yours now. Gary will make sure. Drive it to Tahoe for me. Remember that I loved you for 41 years, and I'll love you for whatever comes after. Forever yours, Catherine. I sat holding her letter, understanding what she'd done. For 18 months, while teaching full-time, while restoring this car, she'd been conducting a secret investigation. Hired a PI, tracked victims across 4 states, hidden over $500,000, installed a secret compartment, arranged for Gary to protect it all while dying inside knowing our daughter was being manipulated, that I was being set up, that everything we'd built was in danger. And she'd done it alone. I set the letter aside and opened the manila folder with shaking hands. The tab Ryan Wells/Ethan Shepard, evidence, inside organized with teacher's precision. Tabs identity, victims, financial conservatorship, contacts. The first section photographs. Dozens. Ryan Wells, our Ethan, standing beside a woman in a wedding dress. Not Lauren. Dated 2019. On the back, Rebecca Wright. Phoenix, Arizona. Married June 15, 2019. Divorced March 2, 2020. A driver's license. Nevada DMV. Ryan Patrick Wells. Born April 12, 1992. The face unmistakably our son-in-law. More photos. Ryan at different weddings, different names, different women, all mid-30s, professional, successful. Like Lauren. The victims section bank statements showing Gerald Martinez's father losing $476,000 over 18 months. Raymond Nelson's mother's conservatorship filings. Stanley Wright's police report. 3 families destroyed. 3 victims devastated. 3 cases where Ryan vanished before prosecution. The conservatorship section blank petition forms. Catherine's notes outlining the process. A timeline comparing Ryan's previous cases to his relationship with Lauren pattern month 1 to 6, courtship and marriage month 7 to 12. Isolation begins month 13 to 18, financial manipulation month 19 to 24. Conservatorship filing month 25 plus asset liquidation below in red ink. Lauren married June 2022. Currently month 32. Past normal timeline. Why the delay I understood. Catherine's death had changed his timeline. He couldn't file while she was alive. She would have fought, exposed him. He'd had to wait. And now, 8 months later, he was making his move. Sell the Charger. Take Lauren to Dubai. Come back and file while I was alone, grieving, vulnerable. The contacts section, Vincent Clark's card. Gerald Martinez's number. Raymond Nelson, a lawyer, Patricia Brown, elder law attorney. At the bottom, Catherine's note, Scott, call Vincent first. He knows everything. Gerald and Raymond will help. Patricia Brown will represent you pro bono if Ryan files. I've already arranged it. You are not alone. I love you. See, I closed the folder. My face was wet with tears. Catherine had spent 18 months building this case. 18 months protecting me. 18 months carrying this burden alone. She'd hidden $500,000, hidden the investigation, hidden the truth, all inside this car. All arranged so Gary would bring me here to discover everything. My wife had built me a life raft, disguised as a 1968 Dodge Charger. Gary appeared beside the car with coffee. Found what you needed. I nodded, unable to speak. He handed me a cup. She was something special. She was. She came here that last week and showed me everything. Asked me to protect the car. Protect you. He paused. She cried that day. Said she wished she could tell you directly, but she knew you'd try to confront him. She died protecting me, I said, voice breaking. She lived protecting you too, Gary corrected gently. She had the key for the safe deposit box in that wooden box. You should go to Wells Fargo today, before your son-in-law figures out those bonds exist. I reached into the compartment and pulled out the wooden box. Locked. She said the key was in the box. Gary smiled slightly. Check behind the lock. Magnetic catch. I found it. Pressed. A hidden panel slid open. Inside a brass key. And beneath it, one final note, box 582. Go today. Don't wait. I love you. See. I looked up at Gary. She thought of everything. She did, he agreed. Question is, what are you going to do about it? Back in Gary's office, I called Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo Capital Mall branch. I need to access a safe deposit box, number 582. My wife's Catherine Lawson. A pause. Mr. Lawson. This is Sandra Miller, Catherine's branch manager. I attended her funeral. I'm so sorry. When would you like to come in? I looked at my watch. 9:47 a.m. Now. I'll be here. Wells Fargo sat on Capitol Mall, granite and glass. Sandra Miller met me immediately, early 50s, kind eyes, professional suit. Catherine spoke of you often, she said, leading me through the lobby. My Scott, she'd say, always with that smile. Her eyes glistened. When I heard about the aneurysm, I still can't believe she's gone. We entered the vault. Rows of metal boxes, fluorescent lighting. Sandra located 582. Your key. I inserted the brass key. Both keys turned. The box slid free. Take all the time you need. She left. The vault door clicked shut. Inside the box, documents in protective sleeves, stock certificates, bond certificates. All the same company, TechCorp Solutions. All dated 1987. Beneath them, Catherine's note, Scott. Bought these in 1987 when TechCorp was a startup. $5,000 investment. In 2020, TechCorp went public. These are now worth $581,000. They're yours. Protect yourself. C. $5,000 in 1987 had become $581,000. I sat for 20 minutes reading her note over and over. She'd given me not just evidence, but the means to fight, to hire lawyers, to protect myself. Sandra helped me transfer everything into my name box 647, solely mine. 40 minutes of paperwork. "No one can access this but you," she said firmly. "These assets are protected." I left with 2 brass keys in my pocket, feeling their weight like talismans. Outside in the F-150, I opened Catherine's folder to the contacts section. 3 numbers. First, Gerald Martinez, a man who'd lost everything to Ryan Wells. I dialed. 3 rings. Martinez. "Mr. Martinez, Gerald Martinez. My name is Scott Lawson. My wife Catherine gave me your number." A pause. Catherine Lawson, the teacher investigating that son of a bitch. Is she there? My throat tightened. She passed away. 8 months ago. "Aw, hell. I'm real sorry." His voice softened. "She was good people. You're calling because he's doing to you what he did to us. He married my daughter 2.5 years ago. We just found out his real identity. We knew him as Marcus Williams, that what he's calling himself now, Ethan Shepard. Ryan Wells is his real name." Jesus. How many names does this guy have? Gerald sighed. "Marcus married my daughter Angela in 2018. Whirlwind romance. 6 weeks to wedding. 6 months in, things changed. Angela pulled away from family. Always had excuses." I listened, gripping the phone. Then Marcus started talking about how Dad was getting forgetful, wandering confused, leaving the stove on. All lies. My father was 73 and sharp as a tack, still running his construction business. But Angela believed him. She believed him. Because he'd been documenting everything, taking pictures of Dad's pills, left out. Recording conversations designed to make Dad sound confused. The notebook. Lauren's fabricated observations. Marcus convinced Angela Dad needed help. Next thing, conservatorship hearing. Angela testifying about Dad's decline. Marcus had fabricated medical records, paid witnesses, bogus doctor evaluation. The court believed him. The court believed Angela, my own sister, testifying against our father. Gerald's voice cracked. Conservatorship granted. 3 months later, Marcus sold Dad's house $430,000. Sold his business $46,000. Emptied bank accounts. Total $476,000. My God. Then Marcus vanished. Divorce papers for Angela by mail from Nevada. And Dad. Gerald trailed off. Dad died 6 months later. Heart attack, doctors said. But I know he died of a broken heart. The parking garage was silent. Your wife called me 18 months ago, Gerald continued. Asked if I'd testify. I said yes. That offer stands. You need me in California, I'll be on the next plane. Thank you. Catherine was building a hell of a case. Finish what she started. Don't let him win. When you're ready to take this bastard down, call me. We talked another 10 minutes. Gerald explained Marcus's methods, how he researched targets for months, studied family dynamics, exploited weaknesses. When I hung up, my hands shook with rage. Ryan Wells had done this before, multiple times, perfected his technique, destroyed families, stolen life savings, and now he was in my house, planning to do the same to us. I gripped the steering wheel. 4 counts in. Hold. 4 counts out. Then I picked up the phone and dialed the second number. Raymond Nelson. The phone rang twice before a defensive voice answered. Who is this? Mr. Nelson Raymond Nelson. My name is Scott Lawson. Catherine Lawson gave me your number. A long pause. Catherine, the teacher from Sacramento. His voice softened slightly. Is she with you? She passed away 8 months ago. Damn. Raymond exhaled slowly. She was helping us, trying to track that bastard down. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. I'm calling because he's targeting my family now. He married my daughter. What name's he using? Ethan Shepard. His real name is Ryan Wells. We knew him as Nathan Cross. Raymond's voice turned bitter. Married my daughter Sophie in 2020. Right in the middle of COVID. We couldn't even attend the wedding lockdowns, you know? Said they'd have a big celebration later. Never happened. I put the phone on speaker and pulled out a notepad writing as Raymond talked. Nathan seemed great at first. Software consultant, he said. Working remotely, good income, treated Sophie well. But 6 months in, things shifted. Sophie stopped calling, stopped visiting. Always too busy, always had excuses. The pattern again. Isolation. Then Nathan started mentioning my mother. She was living with us, 81, some memory issues, but nothing serious. Nathan would say things to Sophie. Your mom forgot her medication again. She left the water running. She tried to leave the house at 3 a.m. All lies. My mother was fine. But Sophie believed him. Sophie believed her husband. And Nathan was documenting everything. Had a whole file of incidents he'd supposedly witnessed. Photos of mom's pills scattered on the floor. Voice recordings of her confused conversations, which I later found out he'd edited to make her sound worse. My stomach churned. Nathan convinced Sophie that mom needed professional care. Memory care facility. Cost $18,000 a month. To pay for it, he said we should sell the family business, an auto repair shop my father built 40 years ago. Mom owned it. Sophie had power of attorney. She sold it. $332,000. The buyer was a shell company. Turned out later it was Nathan's. He basically sold the shop to himself, then flipped it 6 months later for $400,000. Pocketed the difference. Where was your mother during this memory care facility Nathan chose? Turns out he was paying the administrator under the table to keep mom sedated, to report that she was declining rapidly, to discourage family visits for her mental health. Shakitsida. By the time I figured out what was happening, Nathan had cleaned out mom's accounts and vanished. Vanished where? Costa Rica. We tracked him that far. He bought property there under another name. Filed for divorce from Sophie by mail. She was devastated. Lost her husband, lost the family business, lost her grandmother's trust. Mom died 8 months later. Never forgave Sophie for what happened. Raymond's voice cracked. And Sophie, my daughter, she tried to kill herself last year. Overdose. We got her to the hospital in time, but I closed my eyes. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be smart. Catherine understood what these predators do. She called me 16 months ago, said she was investigating Ryan Wells, that he was targeting her family. Asked if I'd testify about our experience. I said yes immediately. That offer still stands. Absolutely. You need me in court. You need me to explain this bastard's pattern. I'll be there. And Mr. Lawson, stop him before your daughter signs anything. Conservatorship papers, power of attorney, anything. Once he has legal control, it's almost impossible to undo. We talked another few minutes. Raymond gave me his lawyer's contact information, offered to share police reports from their case. When I hung up, I sat in the F-150 doing math. Our house, $544,000. Catherine's bonds, $581,000. Total $1,125,000. More than enough to make Ryan Wells's effort worthwhile. More than he'd stolen from Gerald or Raymond. And he'd almost succeeded. If Catherine hadn't investigated. If she hadn't hidden the evidence. If Gary hadn't bought the charger. I looked at the time. 2:15 p.m. The last number on Catherine's contact list. Vincent Clark, private investigator. I dialed. Clark Security and Investigations. Vincent Clark. My name is Scott Lawson, Catherine Lawson's husband. Scott. His voice shifted, immediately professional but warm. I've been waiting for your call. Catherine told me if anything happened to her, you'd eventually find the evidence and contact me. I'm sorry about her passing. She was one of the best clients I ever had. Thorough, determined, believed in justice. She left me everything. The folder, the bonds, the contacts. Good. That means the plan worked. Gary Mitchell bought the car. Yesterday, for $25,000. My daughter sold it while I was at the grocery store. Jesus. Okay, we need to meet. Today, if possible. Where are you? Downtown. Just left Wells Fargo. Weatherstone Coffee on J Street. You know it. I can find it. Give me 30 minutes. I'll bring everything I've collected since Catherine died. This is about to get complicated, Scott. But we're going to stop this son of a bitch. Weatherstone Coffee was a small place tucked between office buildings, exposed brick, mismatched furniture, the smell of espresso and pastries. Vincent Clark sat in the back corner, a leather messenger bag on the chair beside him. He stood when I approached. Mid-50s, built like someone who stayed in shape, salt and pepper hair, sharp eyes that assessed everything. Former cop, you could tell. Scott. He shook my hand firmly. Vincent Clark. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. We sat. Vincent ordered us both coffee from a passing server, then pulled out his messenger bag and set it on the table. Before we start, you need to understand something. Catherine hired me 18 months ago. She paid me through the end of this year, insisted on it. Said she wanted to make sure you'd be covered if anything happened to her. So I'm still on the case. Still your investigator. And I've been busy. He pulled out a laptop and a thick folder thicker than Catherine's. This is everything Catherine found, plus what I've discovered in the 8 months since she died. He opened the laptop, angled it so I could see. Ryan Wells has been active, very active. The screen showed a spreadsheet. Columns, name, alias, location, victim, amount, stolen status. I counted 9 rows, 9 victims. Catherine knew about 5, Vincent said. I've found 4 more since then. Total documented theft across 7 years, approximately $2,100,000. $2 million. He's gotten more sophisticated, moved from simple asset liquidation to complex conservatorship fraud. Your case, if he succeeds, would be his biggest yet. $1.1 million in assets, plus he'd have legal control. He could drag it out for years, bleeding the estate slowly. Vincent tapped the keyboard. Photos appeared. Ryan Wells, our Ethan, at different times, different places, different identities. Each photo showed him with a different woman. Each woman looked successful, professional, mid-30s. Like Lauren. He has a type, Vincent said. Educated women with aging parents. Women who are financially stable but emotionally vulnerable, maybe recently out of bad relationships, maybe struggling with family issues. He researches them extensively before making contact, studies their social media, their routines, their weaknesses. How does he find them? Support groups mostly. Online forums for adult children caring for aging parents, dating apps targeted at professionals, church groups, volunteer organizations, anywhere he can meet women who fit his profile. Vincent pulled out another document. Catherine and I traced his pattern. He spends 3 to 6 months researching potential targets. Then he engineers a chance meeting. Coffee shop, grocery store, dog park, somewhere that feels organic. Lauren met him at a farmer's market, I said quietly. Of course she did. He probably watched her for weeks, learned her routine, positioned himself. Vincent's expression hardened. These predators are patient, methodical, and they're very, very good at reading people. He spread more documents on the table. Bank statements, court filings, police reports, photos of victims' elderly people whose families had been destroyed by Ryan Wells. This is what Catherine collected, Vincent said. And this is what we're going to use to stop him. Vincent opened a folder on his laptop. Let me show you what I've found in the last 3 weeks. He pulled up a spreadsheet, financial records highlighted in yellow and red. Credit cards in Lauren's name, 3 of them. Total balance $54,000. I stared at the screen. $54,000. Charges going back 18 months. Restaurants, hotels, flights. A ring from Tiffany's, $12,000. Dubai trip deposits $8,000. Lauren's salary is $58,000 a year. She can't afford this debt. But Ryan charges freely because they're married. Community property. And I'm willing to bet Lauren doesn't know the full extent. He clicked to another screen. Phone records. 3 weeks ago, Ryan called an elder law attorney in Roseville. Douglas and Associates. They specialize in conservatorships. Vincent highlighted a call. 47 minutes. Then another call 2 days later. 32 minutes. He's not just researching, he's preparing to file. My chest tightened. Based on his previous cases, here's his playbook. Truco, Vincent leaned back. First, he takes Lauren to Dubai. 2 weeks away. It accomplishes 3 things. Creates distance from you. Establishes an alibi timeline and builds Lauren's emotional investment with a dream vacation. When they return, that's when phase 2 starts. He'll begin expressing concern about your behavior, casual at first. Your dad seems a little confused lately, doesn't he? Or has he always forgotten things like this? He'll plant seeds of worry in Lauren's mind, slowly building her anxiety over weeks. Vincent pulled up another document, court filings from Raymond Nelson's case. Then comes the filing. He'll present Lauren's notebook as evidence, all those fabricated observations she's been coached to write. He'll have Lauren testify, believing she's helping you. The court hearing happens within 15 days of filing. If granted, he has full legal control. He can sell your house, liquidate assets, everything. And because your own daughter testified, you need help. The court almost always grants it. The coffee shop felt too warm. Once he has conservatorship, we can't stop him. Nearly impossible to reverse, Vincent confirmed. Which is why we stop him before he files. But here's our advantage: he doesn't know about the bonds. Catherine kept them completely separate, and he doesn't know you found all this evidence. So what's our move? Vincent closed the laptop. We wait, we watch. We let him make the next move, but we're ready for it. He pulled out a business card. Karen Bradley, Sacramento PD Financial Crimes, former partner of mine. She's aware of the case. If Ryan files for conservatorship or attempts fraud, she moves fast. He handed me the card. But Scott, there's a problem. The biggest problem is Lauren. If you tell her what you've discovered, Ryan will spin it. He'll say you're paranoid, experiencing cognitive issues, that Catherine's death affected your judgment. He'll use your accusations as evidence you need help, and Lauren will be torn between you and her husband. That confusion helps Ryan. I knew he was right. Catherine had known it too. Lauren needs to discover the truth herself, Vincent continued. She needs to see Ryan's lies with her own eyes. proof she can't deny. I'm working on a plan to create that opportunity, a controlled situation where Ryan reveals himself. But it'll take a few days to set up. In the meantime, you act normal. Go home. Pretend you don't know anything. Can you do that? 28 years fighting fires, the training, the discipline, staying calm in crisis. I can do that. Good. Because if Ryan suspects, you know he'll file immediately. We'll lose our advantage. Vincent packed his documents. One more thing. Gary said Catherine came to him a week before she died. Asked him to install the hidden compartment. Did she say anything else? Just that she needed to protect me. That if anything happened, Gary should buy the car and bring me to him. She knew, Vincent said quietly. She knew her time was limited. Maybe the aneurysm gave her warning signs. Maybe she just had a feeling. But she spent her last week making sure you'd be protected. Catherine did the hard work, Scott. She built the case, gathered the evidence, set up the safeguards. Now we finish what she started. We stop this bastard before he hurts anyone else. I left Weatherstone Coffee at 4:30 p.m. The sun was still high, Sacramento's endless summer heat making the sidewalk shimmer. 13 hours since I'd woken up. Discovered the empty garage, confronted Lauren and Ethan, met Gary, found Catherine's letter, opened the safe deposit box, called Gerald Martinez, called Raymond Nelson, met Vincent Clark. 13 hours that had ripped my entire life apart and rebuilt it as something unrecognizable. I sat in the F-150 for a long moment before starting the engine. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, not from fear, but from exhaustion and adrenaline mixing together. The same feeling I'd get after a 12-hour shift fighting a wildfire, that bone-deep weariness combined with hyper-alertness. Firefighter training taught you to function in that state, to stay sharp when your body wanted to collapse, to make good decisions when you were running on fumes. I needed that training now. The drive home would take 20 minutes. 20 minutes to prepare myself, to put on the mask of normalcy, to become the grieving widower who didn't know his son-in-law was a predator, who didn't know about the $54,000 in secret debt, who didn't know about the conservatorship plan waiting in the wings. I pulled out of the parking garage and merged onto J Street heading toward the freeway. The city passed by in a blur, office buildings, restaurants, the state capitol dome gleaming gold in the afternoon sun. Normal Tuesday afternoon in Sacramento. People going about their lives unaware that mine had just become a battlefield. Catherine's words from her letter echoed in my mind. Don't let him win. Don't let him take what we built. I wouldn't. But I also wouldn't sacrifice Lauren in the process. She was a victim too manipulated, isolated, used as a weapon against her own father. Whatever plan Vincent was developing, it had to save her as well as stop Ryan. The F-150's engine hummed steadily as I took the exit toward Carmichael, past Sutter Memorial where Catherine had taught. Past the Save Mart where I'd been buying groceries when Lauren sold the Charger. Past the familiar streets of the neighborhood Catherine and I had lived in for 30 years. I turned onto Winding Way and saw my house at the end of the block. The house worth $544,000. The house Ryan Wells planned to steal through legal manipulation and my daughter's unwitting testimony. But he didn't know what I knew now, didn't know about the bonds, the evidence, the network of victims willing to testify, the private investigator still on the case, the cop waiting to move. Ryan Wells thought he was hunting a grieving, vulnerable old man. He had no idea he was walking into a trap that had been 18 months in the making. I pulled into the driveway and turned off the engine. Sat there for a moment, looking at the house where Catherine and I had raised Lauren, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, where we'd built a life together over 41 years of marriage. This was worth fighting for. Lauren was worth fighting for. I got out of the truck, squared my shoulders, and walked toward the front door. The battle was coming, but I was ready. Catherine had made sure of that. Saturday morning. 4 days since the charger disappeared. The notebook sat on the kitchen counter where Lauren had left it. Small, spiral-bound burgundy cover, open to a page with a header in her handwriting, Dad. Health observations. I sat down at 6 a.m. with my coffee and pulled it closer. 23 entries, dated over 4 months. Each one a brief observation. March 15th, Dad forgot where he parked at Save Mart. Took 10 minutes to find truck. March 22nd, Dad left stove burner on after making coffee. April 3rd, Dad called me twice asking same question. April 18th, Dad confused about what day it was. I read all 23. Firefighter training kicking in, assess before reacting. Look for patterns, separate emotion from analysis. By entry 10, I understood. These weren't observations. They were fabrications, or truths twisted into lies. March 15th. Save Mart lot was full. I'd parked in overflow, different location, not forgotten location. March 22nd, I'd cooked eggs at 7 a.m. Lauren came at 9:30. The burner was off but warm. Ethan said I must have just turned it off, but I'd used the electric kettle for coffee. Always did. April 3rd, I called once. Ethan answered a second call, asked the same question, then told Lauren I'd called twice. Every entry had a rational explanation. But written like this, they painted cognitive decline. This was Ryan Wells's evidence. Lauren's observations coached and manipulated in her own handwriting. Footsteps on the porch. Key in the lock. Dad, I forgot my notebook. Lauren stopped in the doorway. Saw me with it. Sit down, Lauren. I can explain. Sit. She sat in Catherine's chair, hands twisting. I turned the notebook toward her. March 15th. Tell me exactly what happened. You couldn't find your truck. We walked around looking. The lot was full. I parked in overflow, far side, not my usual spot. That's not forgetting. That's parking somewhere different. Her eyes widened. March 22nd. I'd cooked eggs at 7. You came at 9:30. Burner was off but warm. Ethan made it sound like I'd left it on, but I used the kettle for coffee. April 3rd. I called once. Ethan answered a second call and fed you the same question, then claimed I'd called twice. I closed the notebook. Every entry can be explained, but this isn't about observation. It's about building a case. Building a case for what? I pulled out a folded document conservatorship petition form with notes in Ethan's handwriting. Vincent had found it uploaded from Lauren's IP address. For this, Lauren read the header, Petition for Appointment of Conservator. Her face went white. What is this? Your husband plans to file Monday. He needs you in Dubai away from me while he submits it. When you return, there's a court hearing. He presents your notebook. You testify about my decline. The court grants him control over me and everything I own. No, Ethan wouldn't. His real name is Ryan Wells. He's done this 5 times. Marries women with aging parents. Isolates them. Builds evidence. Files for conservatorship. Liquidates assets. Disappears. Lauren stared. You're wrong. Gerald Martinez's father in Tucson lost $476,000. Raymond Nelson's mother in Jacksonville lost $332,000. Both daughters testified against their own parents. Both times Ryan Wells vanished after stealing everything. Stop. I pulled out Catherine's manila folder, set it between us. Your mother knew. She investigated him for 18 months, hired a private investigator, gathered police reports, court documents, financial records. Lauren touched the folder with trembling hands. Mom knew. She tried to warn you 3 months before she died. You told her she was being overprotective. Lauren's face crumpled. She tried to talk to me. I pushed her away. She was trying to protect me, and I... Her voice broke. You didn't know. That's what these men do. They manipulate. You're a victim, too. She opened the folder. Photos spilled out. Ryan at different weddings, different names, different women, court documents, police reports, bank statements. Oh my God. She read in silence for 10 minutes. I watched my daughter process the truth, watched her world collapse. Finally, she looked up. The Dubai trip. That's his exit strategy. He files while you're gone. By the time you return, the hearing's scheduled. He has you testify with the notebook. Then he liquidates everything and disappears. What do? We stop him. But Lauren, are you with me? This will get ugly. Police, court, public record. Your marriage ends. Everything changes. Lauren closed the folder, wiped her tears. When she looked at me, I saw Catherine, that fierce determination. He used me to hurt you, made me document lies about my own father. He's stealing everything Mom and you built. Her voice hardened. Tell me what we need to do. I smiled for the first time in days. First, we call Vincent Clark. Then we set a trap. The knock came at 2 p.m. Lauren had just left to meet Vincent at his office. I opened the door to find Gary Mitchell on my porch, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Gary, what's wrong? I need to talk to you about the charger, about Ryan. His voice was rough. I think I just figured out what he did, and it's worse than we thought. I let him in. He paced the kitchen, hands shaking. Sit down. Tell me what happened. Gary collapsed into a chair. Last Monday, before Lauren even brought the car to me, a man called my shop, said his name was Ethan Shepard, your son-in-law. My blood went cold. He told me Lauren was thinking about selling Catherine's charger, said he knew I'd been friends with Catherine, that the car had sentimental value, asked if I'd be interested in buying it. What did you say? I said yes, of course, for Catherine's sake, to protect it. Gary rubbed his face. Then he said he had a collector client willing to pay top dollar, maybe $250,000. But the sale needed to be discreet. Family dynamics, he said. My stomach dropped. He said if I bought the car from Lauren at a reasonable price, he suggested $25,000, he'd facilitate the sale to his collector. We'd split the profit. I'd make good money, the family would be happy, everyone wins. Gary's voice cracked. He knew exactly what to say. Mentioned Catherine. Said you were struggling with grief. Made it sound like I'd be helping everyone. When did Lauren bring the car? Tuesday afternoon. She had no idea about any of this. She quoted $25,500, exactly what Ryan had suggested. I paid her with a certified check right there. And then, Wednesday morning, Ryan called. Said his collector was ready. Needed payment immediately, wire transfer. $200,000. He'd handle everything. I'd get my cut after the sale finalized. I closed my eyes. You paid him. I wired $200,000 Wednesday afternoon. He said the collector would pick up the car Friday. But Friday came and went. No collector, no Ryan, no calls. I tried calling him voicemail. I drove to your daughter's apartment this morning. The landlord said they'd given notice. Moving out next week. He played us both. He didn't just steal from you, Scott. He stole from me too. $200,000 for a fake collector who doesn't exist. Plus Lauren got $25,000 from me. He walked away with $225,000 total. I did the math. Catherine's charger was worth $306,000. Ryan convinced Gary to pay $200,000 for a fake sale. Lauren got $25,500. Ryan pocketed Gary's $200,000 while ensuring the car was sold far below value, so he could later claim it wasn't worth much when liquidating my assets through conservatorship. It's not just theft, I said slowly. It's layered fraud. He gets your $200,000 immediately. He gets the car out of the house. And when he files for conservatorship Monday, he can point to the low sale price as evidence of my poor judgment. Gary stared at me. Conservatorship. I showed him the petition form. Gary read it, his face going pale. Jesus Christ. How long has he been planning this? 18 months? Maybe longer. I showed him Catherine's folder. He's done it before. Multiple times. You're victim number 6, and I was supposed to be number 7. Was. Lauren knows now. She's with Vincent Clark, Catherine's private investigator. We're building a case. But Gary, I need to ask, are you willing to testify? To go on record about what Ryan did? Testify. Gary laughed bitterly. Scott, I'll do more than testify. He used Catherine's memory to scam me, used my grief, my respect for your wife to steal $200,000. You're damn right, I'll testify. My phone buzzed. Text from Vincent. I looked at the screen and my blood ran cold. What is it? Gary asked. I turned the phone so he could see urgent. Ryan just booked tickets. Dubai flight, Monday 6 a.m., Sacramento International. Not Friday like he told Lauren. He's running, Monday morning, 2 days from now. We had 60 hours. 60 hours before Ryan Wells boarded a plane to Dubai with $200,000 of Gary's money and whatever else he could drain from Lauren's accounts. My kitchen table became our war room. Vincent Clark arrived first, spreading documents across the surface. Then Gary, still pale from filing the police report. Lauren sat in Catherine's chair, jaw set with determination. And Frank Morrison, my fishing buddy, retired firefighter. The man who'd been checking on me since Catherine died, stood by the counter with his arms crossed, ready to help however he could. Let's be clear about what we're facing, Vincent said, pulling up his laptop. Gary filed a fraud report with Sacramento PD. Detective Bradley is on it. But here's the problem. Gary willingly wired the money. Ryan promised a business transaction that didn't materialize. Without evidence of intent to defraud or proof he's fleeing, it's a civil matter, not criminal. He's booked a one-way ticket to Dubai, I said. That's fleeing. Booking a ticket isn't illegal. People travel internationally all the time. We need something concrete, admission of fraud, proof of the conservatorship scheme, something that gives Bradley grounds for arrest. Lauren looked up. What if he confesses? Vincent turned to her. If Ryan admitted his plan on record, that would work. But he's not going to confess to the police. He might confess to me. The room went silent. Lauren, I started. He thinks I don't know anything. He thinks I'm still his naive wife who believes Dad's declining. Her voice was steady. What if I go home tonight? Tell him I'm worried about the Dubai trip. That I've been thinking about Dad. That maybe Ethan was right about the conservatorship. Vincent leaned forward. You want to wear a wire? I want to record him admitting what he's planning. Give you evidence Bradley can use. That's dangerous, Gary said. If he suspects, he won't suspect. I'm his victim, his tool. He spent 2 years molding me into exactly what he needs. Lauren's hands clenched. Let me use that. Let me get you what you need to stop him. I looked at my daughter, 33 years old, realizing her husband was a predator, volunteering to walk back into the lion's den. Catherine's daughter. Brave and fierce. "Why, Vincent," I said quietly. "Can this work legally?" California is a two-party consent state for recordings. But there's an exception. If one party reasonably believes a crime is being planned or committed, single-party consent recording is admissible. Given the conservatorship petition, the fraud against Gary and Ryan's flight booking, we have reasonable belief. Vincent pulled out a small device. "This is a digital recorder. Voice-activated. Clips to your bra. Records up to 8 hours." "What do I say to him?" Lauren asked. "Nothing direct. Don't accuse. Don't confront." Vincent opened a notepad. "You're confused. Emotional. You say things like, 'I've been looking at Dad's behavior and you're right, he does seem off.' You express worry about the trip. What if something happens to Dad while we're gone? You let Ryan comfort you, and when he's comfortable, when he thinks you're back under his control, you ask the right questions." "What questions?" "What happens after Dubai? What's the next step with Dad? Let him explain the conservatorship. How will that help? Let him lay out the plan. What about the house, the assets? Let him tell you how he'll liquidate everything." Lauren nodded slowly. "He'll think I'm finally on board, finally seeing things his way." "Exactly. And Lauren." Vincent's voice turned serious. "If at any point you feel unsafe, you leave. Immediately. Text me the code word Tahoe. I'll have someone there in 5 minutes." Frank stepped forward. "I'll be in the parking lot, sitting in my truck. You need me, I'm there." "We all will be," I said. Vincent in his car, Gary in his, me in the F-150. You won't be alone. Lauren stood up. "Let's do this." Vincent fitted the recorder, a device barely larger than a USB drive, to the inside of Lauren's shirt. Tested it twice. Her voice came through clear on his laptop. "Remember," he said, "don't force it. Let the conversation flow naturally. If he doesn't bring up the conservatorship, don't push. We'll find another way." "He'll bring it up," Lauren said. "He thinks he's won. He'll want to gloat." At 7 p.m., Lauren drove to the apartment she shared with Ryan. We followed at a distance, 3 vehicles spread out parking in different sections of the complex lot. I sat in the F-150 watching the door to Unit 2C. Vincent was to my left, Gary and Frank to my right. My phone buzzed. Text from Vincent recorder active. Audio coming through. Wait for my signal. The apartment lights were on. Through the window, shadows moving. 45 minutes passed. My phone buzzed. "Vincent, she's got him talking. Stand by. Another 30 minutes. The waiting was torture." At 9:15, my phone rang. Vincent. "She got it," he said. "All of it. Conservatorship plan. Asset liquidation timeline." He even admitted to the Gary scam, bragged about how easy it was to manipulate some old mechanic. Lauren played it perfectly. "She's leaving now." "Is she okay?" "Shaken but solid. She'll be at your place in 20 minutes. I started the engine and headed home, Vincent and the others following. At 10:30, Lauren's BMW pulled into the driveway. She walked in and set the recorder on the table. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were clear. "I got it," she said. "Everything." Vincent plugged the recorder into his laptop. Ryan's voice filled the kitchen, smooth, confident, dripping with contempt. "Your dad's not going to know what hit him. By the time we're back from Dubai, the petition's filed. You testify which you will because you love your father and you think you're helping him. Court grants conservatorship. I sell the house, liquidate the bonds he doesn't think I know about. And we're looking at over $1 million. Split it offshore, divorce you from Dubai, and I'm gone before anyone figures out what happened. Lauren's voice on the recording. But what about the car money, Gary said. Gary's an idiot. I told him there was a collector. He paid me $200,000 for nothing. Added bonus, now your dad looks incompetent for letting you sell the car so cheap. The recording continued. 5 minutes of Ryan laying out every detail. Mocking me. Mocking Gary. Praising Lauren for being exactly as stupid as I needed her to be. When it ended, the kitchen was silent. Vincent pulled out his phone. I'm calling Bradley now. He dialed, put it on speaker. Detective Karen Bradley answered on the second ring. Vincent, it's late. This better be good. I have a recording. Ryan Wells admitting to conservatorship fraud theft from Gary Mitchell and plans to flee to Dubai Monday morning. Send it to me. Now. Vincent forwarded the file. We waited. 2 minutes of silence while Bradley listened. It's good, she finally said. But Vincent, a defense attorney, will argue he was venting to his wife. Fantasizing, talking big. I need physical evidence, the conservatorship petition. He's planning to file the fake passport proof of offshore accounts. The recording gets us probable cause. The documents get us a conviction. Vincent looked at Lauren. Those documents exist. Where would Ryan keep them? Lauren's face went pale. His office, in the apartment. He has a safe. Can you get back in there? Bradley asked through the speaker. Not tonight, Vincent said quickly. He'll be suspicious if Lauren goes back. We need a plan. Then make one fast, Bradley said, because Monday morning he's gone, and so is our case. Midnight, Lauren sat at my kitchen table with cold coffee and a notebook mapping out the apartment layout. The safe is in his office closet, she said, sketching. Fireproof box, combination lock. He made me memorize it, said it was for emergencies. Vincent leaned over her shoulder. What's inside? I don't know. He never let me open it. Just made me repeat the combination until I had it memorized. Said if anything happened to him, I'd need access to important documents. When does he sleep heaviest? Vincent asked. Between midnight and 5 a.m. He takes melatonin, 10 milligrams, knocks him out cold. Frank looked at his watch. It's 12:15 now. If we move fast... No. I stood up. Lauren's not going back tonight. Ryan's not stupid. If she shows up at midnight, he'll know something's wrong. Tomorrow then, Vincent said. Sunday night. One more day for Ryan to relax. To think he's safe. Lauren goes over Sunday evening like normal. Stays for dinner. Waits until he's asleep. Then opens the safe, photographs everything, and leaves. Lauren nodded slowly. I can do that. You'll wear the body cam again, Vincent said, so we can see exactly what you're finding, and you'll have a burner phone to photograph documents. Then you put everything back exactly as you found it. Why put it back? Gary asked. Because if Ryan realizes documents are missing, he'll run tonight instead of Monday morning. We need him to think he's safe, to walk into Sacramento International thinking he's gotten away with it. Detective Bradley's voice came through Vincent's phone. She was still on the line. I'll coordinate with airport police and TSA. The recording gives me probable cause for an arrest warrant. The documents will give me everything I need to make charges stick. What time is his flight? Monday 6 a.m., Terminal B, Vincent said. I'll have officers in place by 5 a.m. We'll take him at security screening. Public location cameras everywhere, witnesses. Clean arrest. After Bradley hung up, we sat in silence for a moment. There's still risk, I said to Lauren. If he wakes up, he won't. The melatonin knocks him out for 8 hours minimum. Lauren's voice was steady. And I'll have all of you outside. If anything goes wrong, I text Tahoe, and you come get me. Damn right we will, Frank said. Vincent pulled out his laptop. Let me show you how the body cam works, and the phone camera you'll need to photograph every document clearly. No blurry shots, no missing pages. We spent the next hour planning. Backup plans, contingencies. Vincent had Lauren practice the route through the apartment from door to bedroom to office to safe and back until she could do it silently in the dark. At 2 a.m., Lauren went home to my guest room to try to sleep. The rest of us stayed at the kitchen table running scenarios. What if the combination doesn't work? Gary asked. Then she leaves, Vincent said firmly. No forcing it, no breaking in. She just walks out, and we find another way. But we all knew there wasn't another way. Not in time. Sunday dragged. Lauren spent the day at my house reviewing the plan. At 6 p.m., she drove to the apartment for dinner with Ethan. We followed our usual formation, 3 vehicles, different parking spots. I sat in the F-150 watching Unit 2C. Vincent monitored the body cam feed on his laptop. Lauren texted at 7 p.m. having dinner. He seems relaxed, talking about Dubai. Another text at 9 p.m. watching a movie. He took melatonin at 8:30. At 11 p.m. he's asleep. I'm moving in 30 minutes. The wait was agony. My hands ached from gripping the steering wheel. At 11:32, Vincent texted. She's moving. Office door open, heading to closet. I watched the dark windows. Somewhere in there, my daughter was opening a safe containing evidence that could save or destroy everything. Vincent's safe open. She's photographing documents. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Vincent multiple documents. Conservatorship petition original signed by Ryan. Passport in the name Ryan Wells. Bank statements. Travel itinerary Dubai to Cayman Islands. 15 minutes. Vincent, holy shit. She found a file on you, Scott. Photos of your house, your routine, your friends. He's been surveilling you for months. 20 minutes. Vincent. She's closing the safe, leaving the office, heading for the door. The apartment door opened. Lauren stepped out, walked down the stairs like she had all the time in the world, got in her BMW. 3 vehicles pulled out in sequence. Back at my house at 1 a.m., Lauren handed Vincent the burner phone. 147 photos, she said, hands shaking. Everything in the safe. Vincent downloaded them to his laptop. Conservatorship petition dated for Monday 8 a.m. filing. Passport definitely Ryan Wells. And look at this itinerary. Dubai Monday night. Cayman Islands Tuesday morning. Account numbers for 3 offshore banks. He called Bradley. We have everything. Physical evidence. Flight plans. Fake passport. Offshore accounts. Send it all to me now, Bradley said. I'll have the arrest warrant by 6 a.m. My team will be in position at the airport by 5. After she hung up, we sat in exhausted silence. What time do we need to be there? Gary asked. 4:30 a.m., Vincent said. Airport's 30 minutes. We want to be in position before Ryan arrives. I looked at my watch. 1:30 a.m., 3 hours until we had to leave. Anyone sleeping? Frank asked. No one answered. Lauren made coffee. We reviewed the plan one more time. Bradley would coordinate the arrest. We'd be there as witnesses. At 4 a.m., I went upstairs, opened Catherine's closet, pulled out the blue blouse she'd worn to our last anniversary dinner, held it to my face. We're doing it, Catherine, I whispered. We're stopping him. just like you planned. At 4:30 a.m., we left for Sacramento International Airport. The sun wasn't up yet. The city was dark. But inside the F-150 with Lauren beside me and Vincent's headlights in my mirror, I felt something I hadn't felt in 8 months. Hope. Sacramento International Airport. At 4:30 a.m., was half asleep. Fluorescent lights harsh against pre-dawn darkness. A handful of red-eye travelers shuffled through security. A janitor pushed a floor buffer past empty gates. Starbucks was just opening coffee smell, cutting through recycled air. Terminal B, Security Checkpoint 3. We took our positions like soldiers, because that's what this was, the culmination of Catherine's 18 months of investigation. The end of Ryan Wells's 7-year crime spree. Detective Bradley stood near security, mid-40s jeans and casual jacket, hiding her badge and weapon. She pretended to check her phone. 2 plainclothes officers were scattered around, one reading a newspaper near the ticket counter, another buying coffee. Airport police knew. TSA had been briefed. The net was set. Lauren and Gary sat in the waiting area 30 feet from security, looking like any other travelers. Gary had a newspaper he wasn't reading. Lauren clutched a coffee cup with white knuckles. Frank Morrison was near the entrance, watching for Ryan's arrival. I stood behind a support column 20 feet from checkpoint 3 where I could see everything but stay hidden. Vincent was to my left, laptop bag over his shoulder. My phone buzzed. Vincent, everyone in place. Bradley has warrant. TSA ready. We wait. I checked my watch. 4:47 a.m. Ryan's flight departed at 6 a.m. He'd arrive around 5:15 probably. Every minute felt like an hour. I looked at Lauren across the terminal. She stared at her coffee cup, face pale in harsh lighting. This was her husband. The man she'd married 2 years ago. The man who'd used her as a weapon against her own father. In minutes, she'd watch him get arrested. Watch her marriage end in handcuffs. Watch everything she'd believed crumble. I wanted to go to her, to hold her hand like when she was little and scared. But I couldn't. Ryan couldn't see us together, so I stayed behind my column and waited. 5:17 a.m. More people arriving. Business travelers with roller bags. Retirees heading somewhere warm. 5:29 a.m. My phone buzzed. Frank Black Lexus curbside. It's him. My heart kicked up. I pressed against the column, peering around the edge. Through terminal windows, I saw the Lexus and Uber. The driver popped the trunk. A man stepped out. Ryan Wells, our Ethan Shepard, charcoal designer suit, crisp white shirt, expensive sunglasses though the sun wasn't up. 2 large Toomey suitcases. He looked like success, like wealth, like a man on a business trip, not a criminal fleeing with stolen money. The driver helped with bags. Ryan tipped him cash, then strode through automatic doors like he owned the place, that confident swagger. The walk of a man who thought he'd gotten away with everything. My hands clenched. I forced myself to breathe. 4 counts in, hold. 4 counts out. Ryan paused inside, pulling out his phone. Checking his boarding pass, probably. Or texting Lauren some lie about missing her. He didn't know she was 30 feet away, watching with tears. He didn't know Catherine's bonds were secure in Box 647, untouchable. He didn't know Vincent had spent 8 months building on Catherine's investigation. He didn't know Bradley had an arrest warrant in her jacket. Ryan Wells thought he was about to board a plane to freedom. To Dubai, then Cayman Islands, then wherever men like him disappeared with other people's money. He had no idea he was walking into a trap. He rolled suitcases toward the ticket counter, movements relaxed, unhurried. A man with all the time in the world. At the counter, he handed over his passport. The agent briefed by Bradley took longer than usual checking it, typed into her computer, looked up with a professional smile, asked a question. He answered laughing, still playing the part. Still the charming businessman. The agent handed back his passport and boarding pass, pointed toward security. He thanked her, flashed that smile, turned toward checkpoint 3, toward us. My phone buzzed. Vincent, here we go. Bradley shifted position, moving toward the security line. The other plainclothes officers adjusted, tightening perimeter. Ryan got in line behind a businessman and an elderly couple, only 3 people ahead. He checked his watch, Tag Heuer, and pulled out his phone again. The line moved. Businessman went through. Then the elderly couple, slow with shoes and belts. Ryan stepped forward, placed suitcases on the conveyor, pulled off his watch, placed it in a bin, took off his sunglasses, those cold predator eyes now visible. He stepped toward the metal detector. Bradley moved. Excuse me, sir. Her voice carried across the terminal, professional but firm. She walked toward Ryan, hand moving to her jacket where her badge was. I need to speak with you. Ryan froze, turned. For 1 second, just 1 second, the mask slipped. I saw recognition flash across his face. Fear, calculation. Then he recovered. Smiled. That same charming smile he'd used on everyone. I think there's some mistake, officer. I'm just trying to catch my flight. Bradley pulled out her badge, held it up. There's no mistake, Mr. Wells. Step away from the security line, please. Ryan's face went white at the sound of his real name. His eyes flicked around the terminal, scanning for exits, for escape routes, for any way out. His smile vanished completely. The confident businessman disappeared. What remained was something colder, something dangerous. He looked at Bradley's badge, then at the plainclothes officers now moving closer, then back at Bradley's face. His expression shifted from charm to calculation to the beginning of panic. The trap had just closed. Are you still watching comment 1 right now? I want to know who's here at this critical moment. Fair warning, what follows includes fictionalized details based on actual fraud tactics. You're welcome to close the video if you prefer, but if you've invested this much in Scott and Catherine's story, you need to see what happens when that mask finally falls. Ryan's smile returned, that practiced, charming smile. He spread his hands in a gesture of innocent confusion. Is there a problem, detective? I'm just a businessman trying to catch a flight to Dubai. My wife and I have a vacation planned. Your wife is right over there, Mr. Wells, Bradley said, nodding toward the waiting area. Ryan's head turned. His eyes found Lauren standing 30 feet away, coffee cup abandoned on the chair beside her. Gary Mitchell next to her. Frank Morrison by the entrance. Vincent emerging from behind a column, and me, stepping out from my hiding spot, meeting his gaze across the terminal. The smile died on his face. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, Ryan Wells stood completely still. I watched the calculation happen behind his eyes, the rapid assessment of the situation, the realization that he'd been set up, that we'd been waiting for him, that the trap had already closed. His gaze snapped back to Bradley, to the badge in her hand, to the plainclothes officers now moving closer, forming a perimeter around him. I don't know what you think you know, he said, voice tight, but you're making a mistake. My wife is confused. Her father has been experiencing cognitive decline. We've been trying to get him help. We have recordings, Mr. Wells, Bradley said calmly, of you admitting to fraud, to your plans to file a false conservatorship petition, to stealing $200,000 from Gary Mitchell, to your real identity, Ryan Patrick Wells, wanted in connection with financial crimes in 4 states. Ryan's face went from white to red, his hands clenched. You can't. That's illegal. Recording without consent. Single-party consent is legal in California when a crime is being planned or committed, Bradley said. And we have plenty of evidence of both. Now step away from the security line and place your hands. Ryan ran. He didn't think. Didn't plan. Just pure animal panic, the predator realizing he'd become prey. He abandoned his suitcases and bolted toward the departure gates past security into the terminal. Airport police shouted. TSA agents moved to intercept. Travelers jumped back, startled. I started after him, but Vincent was already moving. 28 years as a cop, even retired, doesn't leave you. Vincent had the angle, the training, the instinct. He cut through the terminal like a linebacker dodging a family with strollers vaulting over a dropped bag. Ryan was fast, younger, desperate. He sprinted past gate B7, B8, heading for the far end of the terminal. Maybe he thought there was another exit. Maybe he wasn't thinking at all. Travelers scattered. A woman screamed. A child started crying. Someone yelled, "Stop that man!" Ryan glanced back, mistake, and Vincent closed the distance. At gate B12, right in front of the departure board showing flights to everywhere Ryan would never reach, Vincent tackled him. They went down hard. Ryan's head cracked against the tile floor. Vincent had him face down in seconds, knee in his back, twisting his arms behind him. "Stay down," Vincent growled. "Don't make this worse." Bradley and the other officers arrived seconds later. She pulled out handcuffs, snapped them on Ryan's wrists with practiced efficiency. Ryan was screaming now, not words, just incoherent rage. Then words, "Illegal arrest, police brutality. I want my lawyer." "You can't do this." Bradley hauled him to his feet. His designer suit was torn at the shoulder. His face was scraped from the tile. Blood trickled from his nose. The confident businessman was gone. What remained was a cornered animal, snarling and desperate. "Ryan Patrick Wells," Bradley said, voice loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. "You're under arrest for fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit conservatorship fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney." "I didn't do anything. These people are lying. That old man is senile." Ryan's eyes found me in the crowd. "Tell them, Scott. Tell them you've been confused. Tell them about the memory problems." I walked closer until I was standing directly in front of him, until he could see my face clearly. See that I wasn't confused, wasn't declining, wasn't any of the things he'd tried to make me believe I was. "My wife spent 18 months investigating you," I said quietly. "She documented everything, every victim, every alias, every crime. She died before she could stop you, but she made sure I could." Ryan's face twisted. "That bitch. She should have minded her own." I didn't think. Didn't plan. 28 years of discipline and control disappeared. My fist connected with his jaw. Pain exploded in my knuckles. Ryan's head snapped back. Bradley grabbed my arm. "Scott, don't." Vincent pulled me back. "He's not worth it." Ryan spat blood, smiled through split lips. "Assault, battery, in front of witnesses. You just assaulted me in police custody." "I saw you slip and fall," Frank Morrison said loudly from behind me. "Clumsy trying to run like that. Wasn't nobody hit you." "I saw the same thing," Gary Mitchell added. "Terrible fall. Could have hurt yourself worse." "Definitely a fall," Lauren said, her voice shaking but clear. My father was standing right next to me the whole time. Bradley looked at Vincent. Vincent shrugged. "Suspect resisted arrest. Fell during apprehension. Standard procedure." Ryan's smile vanished. He sagged in Bradley's grip, the fight draining out of him. Bradley nodded to one of the airport police officers. "Get him out of here. Downtown booking. I'll be there in 30 minutes. They dragged Ryan toward the exit. He was quiet now, head down, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. The crowd of travelers was still filming on their phones. Some were already posting to social media, probably. Local news would have it within the hour. Bradley turned to Vincent. "His luggage is still at security. 2 suitcases. Want to check them?" Vincent asked. Bradley pulled on latex gloves, a grim smile on her face. "Oh yes. Let's see what Mr. Wells was taking to Dubai." We walked back to security checkpoint 3. Ryan's 2 Toomey suitcases sat abandoned on the conveyor belt where he'd left them. 1 roller bag, 1 carry-on. Bradley unzipped the roller bag first. Clothes, toiletries, normal travel items. Then she opened the carry-on and stopped. "Well," she said quietly, "this just got a lot more interesting." The second suitcase, the carry-on, had a combination lock. Bradley worked it with a small tool. 30 seconds. The lock popped. She lifted the lid. Nobody spoke. Cash. Stacks of $100 bills, rubber-banded. Bradley ran a counter through them. $82,000. Beneath the cash, a passport. Not the one Ryan had used at the ticket counter. This one showed his real face, different name, Marcus Williams. Another identity. Another escape route. A manila envelope thick with papers. Bradley opened it. Inside, the original conservatorship petition, signed and dated for today, 8 a.m. filing. My name across the top. Lauren listed as petitioner. And beneath that, bank statements. Offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. 3 banks. Transaction histories going back 7 years. Bradley spread them out, photographing each page. Gerald Martinez's father, $476,000. Raymond Nelson's mother, $332,000. 2 other victims. She tapped one statement. This account alone has over $1 million. He kept records, Vincent said. Narcissism or insurance, probably both. Bradley kept photographing. A laptop emerged from the bottom. We'll need forensics. Probably more victims documented. I stared at the cash. $82,000. Money stolen from Lauren's credit cards over 2 years. Is this enough? I asked. Bradley looked up. Enough. This is a prosecutor's dream. Conservatorship fraud. Identity fraud. Wire fraud. Interstate flight. Federal charges. State charges. He's looking at 15 to 23 years minimum. Good, Gary said quietly. They brought Ryan back. Bradley wanted him to see what they'd found. 2 officers held his arms. His face was swollen, blood dried under his nose. The designer suit ruined, but his eyes, those cold eyes, were still calculating, still looking for an angle. Bradley gestured to the evidence. Want to explain any of this, Mr. Wells? Ryan's jaw tightened. Silence. On $82,000 in cash. 3 fake passports, conservatorship documents, offshore accounts containing over $1 million stolen from at least 7 victims. I want my lawyer, Ryan said. You'll get one. But first, Bradley turned to Lauren. Miss Lawson, come here, please. Lauren stepped forward, pale, red-eyed, but spine straight. Catherine's daughter. Ryan looked at her. Anger flickered across his face. You did this, he said, voice venomous. You betrayed me. After everything I did for you, after I tried to help your pathetic, senile father. Stop, Lauren said quietly. You were perfect, So easy to manipulate, so desperate to please, so weak. Ryan's voice rose. I told you exactly what to write in that notebook. You did it all like a good little puppet. I said stop. Lauren's voice stronger now. You're nothing, Ryan spat. A lonely, boring office manager with daddy issues and a dying mother. I made you interesting. I gave you purpose. And this is how you repay me, by helping that senile old man and his dead wife's pathetic investigation. My hand shot out rage, but Vincent grabbed my arm. Don't. He wants assault charges. Ryan smiled through split lips. That's right, Scott. Can't defend your daughter without help. Can't remember where you parked. Catherine was right, you're weak. Both of you, weak and pathetic. Enough. Lauren. Not loud, but final. She stepped closer. Close enough the officers tensed. You're right about one thing, she said quietly. I was lonely when we met. I was struggling. Mom was sick. Dad was grieving. I was looking for someone to make me feel less alone. She paused. And you saw that. You researched me, engineered our meeting, made me fall in love with a person who didn't exist. Ryan opened his mouth. She kept going. But I'm not weak. I'm not pathetic. I'm my mother's daughter, and she taught me that strength isn't about never being fooled. It's about what you do when you realize the truth. Lauren's voice hardened. I helped catch you. I recorded you admitting everything. I photographed evidence in your safe. I gave police everything they needed. She leaned closer. So you're wrong. I'm exactly like my mother, and she destroyed you from beyond the grave. Ryan's face twisted. You stupid. Enough, I said, stepping beside Lauren. Game over, Ryan. You lost. Gary moved to Lauren's other side, and you owe me $200,000, you son of a bitch. Bradley nodded to the officers. Get him out. Downtown booking. Full processing. They dragged Ryan toward the exit. He screamed incoherent rage. Passengers watched in disgust. Parents covered children's ears. Someone still filming. The doors closed. His screams faded. Silence fell. Vincent clapped my shoulder. Catherine would be proud. Bradley packed evidence into bags. I'll need statements from all of you, most of the day. But Scott, this is solid, airtight. He's not walking away. I nodded, unable to speak. Lauren stood trembling. I pulled her into a hug, the first real hug since this nightmare began. She collapsed against me, sobbing. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have listened to Mom. I should have seen. Shh. You didn't know. He's a professional. This is what he does. I held her tighter. But you stopped him. You helped stop him. That's what matters. Gary wiped his eyes. Frank stood quietly nearby. Vincent talked with Bradley, coordinating next steps. Through terminal windows, the sun was coming up. Monday morning in Sacramento. The city waking. People heading to work, to school, to normal lives. My life would never be normal again. Catherine was still gone. The charger still in Gary's shop. 8 months of grief hadn't disappeared. But Ryan Wells was in custody. The bonds were secure. Lauren was safe. And somewhere I like to think Catherine was smiling. Justice had been served. Her justice. The justice she'd spent 18 months building piece by piece in secret, while her heart broke for our daughter, and her body counted down its final days. I held Lauren and let her cry. Let myself cry too. It was over. Finally, after everything, it was over. Still with me after Ryan's arrest? Drop 17 years in the comments and let me know, is that enough justice for what he did? Quick reminder, this narrative combines documented fraud patterns with dramatization for impact. Feel free to step away if you prefer, but there's healing ahead, a scholarship, a car, and a father finally learning to drive the way his wife wanted to teach him. 2 weeks later, we stood on the steps of Sacramento County Courthouse under a cloudless October sky. The hearing had taken 3 hours. Computer forensics had done what Catherine's 18 months of investigation had begun, laid bare every detail of Ryan Wells's 8-year crime spree. 5 confirmed victims. Attempts on 3 more that had failed for various reasons. Total documented theft, $2,100,000. The laptop from his carry-on had been a goldmine. Spreadsheets tracking every victim by name, location, amount, stolen timeline. Photos of targets taken weeks before first contact. Research files on their families, their routines, their vulnerabilities. Email accounts under 7 different names. Dating profiles. Church group memberships. Support forum posts, all carefully crafted to find his next mark. He kept score, Detective Bradley had said during our deposition. Like a hunter mounting trophies. The narcissism is textbook. He couldn't help himself. The evidence was so overwhelming that Ryan's attorney, a public defender who looked exhausted, had negotiated a plea deal within 48 hours of arraignment. 17 years. Federal prison. No possibility of parole. Conservatorship fraud. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Interstate flight to avoid prosecution. Elder abuse, 5 counts. The charges stacked like cordwood, each one adding years to his sentence. Could have been worse, Bradley had told us. Federal sentencing guidelines are tough, but with his cooperation on victim restitution and full disclosure, the DA agreed to recommend concurrent sentencing on some charges. Otherwise, he'd be looking at 30 years minimum. 17 years meant Ryan Wells would be 52 when he got out. Middle-aged, his youth gone, his prime years spent in a cell. It wasn't enough. Could never be enough for what he'd done to Gerald Martinez's father, to Raymond Nelson's mother, to the other victims whose families had been torn apart. But it was justice, Catherine's justice. Lauren had been cleared of all potential charges within the first week. The DA reviewed the evidence, the recordings of Ryan coaching her. The psychological evaluation showing classic manipulation patterns, the timeline of isolation and control, and declared her a victim, not an accomplice. "You're free," Bradley had told her. "No charges, no criminal record, and we're fast-tracking your marriage annulment. It'll be like the marriage never existed." Lauren had cried with relief, then with shame, then with something that looked like the beginning of healing. The marriage was annulled on grounds of fraud. Ryan Wells, or Ethan Shepard, or whatever name he'd actually used on the marriage certificate, had never been who he claimed. The wedding had been built on lies. California law was clear: fraudulent marriage could be voided retroactively. Lauren Lawson was single again, free, but also lost. I don't know who I am anymore. She'd told me one night sitting at Catherine's kitchen table. I spent 2 years being his wife, being the person he wanted me to be. Now I don't know what's left. "You're my daughter," I'd said. "You're Catherine's daughter. That's who you've always been. The rest we'll figure out together." Gary Mitchell had filed civil claims against Ryan's estate. Most of the $200,000 he'd wired was gone, spent on the Dubai trip deposits, the cash Ryan had been carrying, various other expenses. But the court had frozen Ryan's offshore accounts. Asset recovery specialists were working to trace and return funds to victims. "I'll get maybe 30 cents on the dollar," Gary had said with a shrug. "Better than nothing. And honestly, Seeing that bastard in handcuffs was worth more than the money. The other victims, Gerald Martinez, Raymond Nelson, the families of the deceased, were filing claims too. It would take years to sort through the legal maze of offshore accounts and shell corporations. But Catherine's documentation combined with Ryan's laptop evidence gave them all a roadmap. "Your wife did this," Gerald Martinez had told me over the phone. "She gave us the tools to fight back, to get some measure of justice. My father died never seeing his money returned, but at least now I can tell his memory that the man who destroyed him is in prison." The hearing today had been procedural, formal sentencing. Ryan in an orange jumpsuit, hands and feet shackled, face blank. He'd looked smaller somehow, diminished, the confidence and charm stripped away, leaving only a hollow man who'd spent his adult life stealing from others because he had nothing of his own to give. He hadn't looked at us during the proceedings, hadn't spoken except to confirm his plea. The judge had sentenced him efficiently, reading through the charges and recommended sentences with practiced calm. 17 years, federal custody, concurrent sentences, no parole eligibility. The defendant will be remanded immediately to federal prison pending assignment to permanent facility. The gavel had fallen. Ryan had been led away. It was over in minutes. But the most powerful moment had come after the sentencing when the judge had addressed the courtroom. "I want to note for the record," she'd said, looking directly at me, "that this case was solved not by law enforcement, though their work was exemplary, but by a private citizen. Catherine Lawson, a high school history teacher, spent the last 18 months of her life investigating Ryan Wells. She documented his crimes. She protected potential victims. She built a case that has now resulted in justice for multiple families." The judge had paused, her voice softening. "Mrs. Lawson passed away before seeing this case to completion, but her husband and daughter finished what she started. This court recognizes Catherine Lawson's extraordinary dedication to justice. Her investigation file will be preserved as evidence of one citizen's determination to protect her community." I'd broken down then. Quiet tears running down my face while Lauren held my hand. The victims' families had submitted video statements. Gerald Martinez, standing in front of his father's grave, "Thank you, Mrs. Lawson. Thank you for seeing what we couldn't, for believing us when others didn't." Raymond Nelson, his voice shaking. "My mother died thinking her own daughter betrayed her. Because of your investigation, we now know the truth. We can heal. Thank you." 3 other families. 3 more stories of grief and loss and gratitude for Catherine's work. The prosecutor had played them all in court. Every eye was wet by the end. Now we stood on the courthouse steps in October sunshine. The hearing behind us, the future uncertain but no longer terrifying. Lauren looked up at me, squinting against the light. So "What do we do now, Dad?" I thought about Catherine's letter, about her final words. "Drive it to Tahoe for me. Remember that I loved you for 41 years. I thought about the Charger still sitting in Gary Mitchell's shop waiting. I thought about the bonds in box 647, secure and untouchable, Catherine's gift ensuring we'd be okay. I thought about the empty chair at the kitchen table where she used to sit every morning drinking coffee and grading papers. We go home," I said quietly, "and we heal." Lauren nodded. Together. We walked down the courthouse steps into the October morning, father and daughter survivors of a predator's scheme, carrying Catherine's legacy forward into whatever came next. Behind us, justice had been served. Ahead of us, healing could begin. 2 months after the sentencing, I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard it, a deep, rumbling growl that made the windows vibrate. The unmistakable sound of a 440 Magnum V8. I walked to the front window. Gary Mitchell's truck was pulling away from the curb, and sitting in my driveway, gleaming like liquid sky under December sun, was Catherine's 1968 Dodge Charger RT. I stepped outside, barefoot, still holding my coffee mug. The same way this whole nightmare had started 8 months ago. But this time, the garage wasn't empty. The car was here. Home. Gary climbed out of his truck, walking toward me with a smile. Thought it was time she came back where she belongs. I couldn't speak, just stared at the B5 blue, paint the chrome bumpers, the black leather interior visible through the windows. I detailed her, Gary said. Changed the oil, checked all the fluids. She's ready to drive. He held out the keys, the same keys Lauren had taken from the hook 8 months ago. No charge for storage, no charge for the work. This car belongs to your family, Scott. Always has. Gary, I can't. The $200,000 Ryan took from you is being handled through the courts. Asset recovery team says I'll get about $60,000 back. That's $60,000 more than I thought I'd ever see. Gary pressed the keys into my palm. Your wife saved my life 25 years ago. This is the least I can do. I looked at the Charger, at the car Catherine had poured 23 years into. The car that had saved my life by hiding the evidence that stopped Ryan Wells. Thank you, I whispered. Gary clapped my shoulder. Drive her to Tahoe. That's what Catherine wanted. Don't let that dream die with her. Lauren and I established the scholarship 3 weeks later. The Catherine Lawson Memorial Scholarship Fund. Sacramento State University College of Education. Annual award of $12,000 to a student studying to become a teacher with preference given to those interested in teaching history. We'd used part of Catherine's bonds, $122,000 enough, to endow the fund in perpetuity. The university had been honored. Catherine had been an alumna class of 1986. They'd taught her how to teach. Now her legacy would help others do the same. The ceremony was small. The dean of the College of Education, a few of Catherine's former colleagues, students who'd written essays about why Mrs. Lawson had inspired them to pursue teaching. Lauren read a statement. My mother believed education was the foundation of everything. She spent 38 years teaching young people to think critically, to question, to understand that history wasn't just dates and names. It was people making choices, good choices and bad ones. She wanted them to learn from both. Her voice cracked. I squeezed her hand. Mom spent the last 18 months of her life fighting to protect our family. She didn't live to see justice served, but she made sure we'd have the tools to finish what she started. This scholarship is our way of ensuring her life's work teaching continues. The first recipient would be announced in spring. A student who embodied Catherine's values, curiosity, integrity, dedication to helping others learn. It felt right. Felt like Catherine would approve. On a Saturday morning in January, Lauren and I drove the Charger to Sutter Memorial Hospital, the place where Catherine had taught health education before moving to the high school. The parking lot was nearly empty on the weekend. Okay, Lauren said, sliding out of the driver's seat. Your turn. I looked at the steering wheel, the 3-pedal setup, the manual transmission shifter that Catherine had operated with such practiced ease. I don't know if I can. Mom wanted to teach you. She wrote about it in her journal. Lauren pulled out Catherine's restoration journal, the one I'd found that first morning in the empty garage. She opened to the last page. Look. Catherine's handwriting dated a week before she died. Note to self: next weekend, teach Scott to drive the Charger. Start in the hospital parking lot, flat empty on Saturdays. He'll stall a few times. He'll get frustrated. But he'll get it. And then we'll drive to Tahoe together. Windows down, music up. The way Dad used to drive me. Scott needs to know this car. Needs to understand it's not just metal. It's memory. It's love. It's the bridge between who we were and who we're becoming. Drive it for me, Scott. When I'm gone, drive it for me. My vision blurred. I wiped my eyes. Come on, Dad. Lauren's voice was gentle. Let's do this. For Mom. I slid into the driver's seat. The leather was cool, the cabin smelling of old car and orange cleaner and Catherine. Lauren got in the passenger side Catherine's seat. Left pedal is clutch, she said. Push it all the way down. Now turn the key. The 440 Magnum roared to life. 400 horsepower thrumming through the frame. Clutch in. First gear that's up and to the left. Now ease off the clutch slowly while giving it gas. I tried. The car lurched forward 2 feet and died. That's okay. Everyone stalls. Try again. Second attempt, same result. Lurch, stall, silence. You're releasing the clutch too fast. Slower. Feel the friction point where it starts to grab. Third attempt, I eased off the clutch, felt the car start to move, gave it gas. The Charger rolled forward smoothly, engine purring. There you go, Lauren laughed. That's it. Now shift to second, straight down. I drove circles around the empty parking lot, shifting through the gears, feeling the power Catherine had built over 23 years, understanding finally why she'd loved this car so much. It wasn't transportation. It was freedom. It was the memory of her father taking her on Sunday drives. It was 23 years of Saturday afternoons when the world made sense because her hands knew exactly what to do. After 30 minutes, I pulled back into the parking space and turned off the engine. Lauren was crying, smiling through tears. Mom would be so proud. She would. I agreed. She is. We left for Lake Tahoe the following Saturday. I drove. Lauren in the passenger seat, Catherine's journal on the dashboard. Frank Morrison, following in his truck, insisted on coming just in case. Highway 50 east through the Sierra Nevada. Winter sun bright on snow-covered peaks. The Charger's engine strong and steady. We didn't talk much, just listened to the road, the engine, the wind through the cracked windows despite the cold. At Tahoe, we parked overlooking the lake. Azure water stretching to distant mountains. The place Catherine had wanted to bring me. The drive she'd never got to make. We're here, Mom, Lauren whispered. We made it. I sat in the driver's seat of my wife's car, looking at the view she'd wanted to share, and felt something I hadn't felt since she died. Peace. Not the absence of grief. The grief was still there, would always be there. But underneath it, peace. The knowledge that Catherine's plan had worked, that Ryan Wells was in prison, that Lauren was safe, that the bonds were secure, that justice had been served, and that we were here, father and daughter survivors, carrying Catherine's memory forward in the car she'd built with her own hands. We're never too old to start over, I said quietly. Never too old to fight for what matters. Never too old to heal. Lauren took my hand. Never too old to honor the people we've lost by living the lives they wanted for us. We sat there for an hour watching the lake, feeling Catherine's presence in every detail of the car around us. Then I started the engine and we drove back down the mountain toward home, toward whatever came next. Catherine was gone, but she'd left us everything we needed: evidence to stop a predator, money to rebuild a car to remember her by, and the strength to keep going. We would keep going. Together. For her. For us. For everyone she'd protected by refusing to give up, even when her time was running out. The Charger's engine rumbled steadily as we descended toward Sacramento, carrying us forward, carrying her memory, carrying hope. And somewhere, I like to believe Catherine was smiling. Looking back, I understand what Catherine tried to teach me: family betrayal cuts deeper than any stranger's crime, because it comes disguised as love. Lauren didn't betray me intentionally. She was a weapon someone else wielded. That distinction saved us both. If you see yourself in my story, don't wait like I did. Don't ignore warning signs because you want everything to be fine. Trust your instincts. Pay attention when something feels wrong. Grandpa stories like mine shouldn't end with courthouse steps and prison sentences. But sometimes life gives us the story we needed, not the one we wanted. The lesson: protect what matters, but never alone. Catherine carried everything herself, and it killed her. When I finally accepted help from Lauren, Gary, Vincent, Frank, we won. Family betrayal heals when family stands together. God gives us two hands, one to help ourselves, one to help others. Catherine used both until her last breath. Don't be like me. Don't wait for crisis to see clearly. Love your family fiercely, but keep your eyes open. Trust, but verify. You're never too old to fight for what's right. The Charger sits in my garage now. Some mornings I sit in the driver's seat and talk to Catherine about Lauren's progress, the scholarship recipients, the grandpa stories I'm writing down. She doesn't answer, but I feel her smiling, and that's enough. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Drop a comment. What would you do in Scott's situation facing family betrayal? Would you have seen the signs earlier if this story touched you? Consider subscribing for more grandpa stories about real struggles and the strength we find facing them. Note: while inspired by real elder abuse patterns, some elements were dramatized for storytelling. If this isn't your preference, explore other content that suits you better.